Hey, what's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you good. How do I
Okay, I
sound?
don't hear you, so let me... Crap. So there's always some kind of technical problem, you know?
Yeah, hopefully it's not
Let me
on my
see
end.
if
I'm trying
you're...
to figure it out.
Okay, so my mic is on. Your mic is on. Let me just check something really quick, brother.
Okay.
Go check my audio real quick. Yeah, for some reason I'm not getting sound, so let me just check. Microphone check, chickadee check. Try to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah.
All right, well. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. All right, here we go. All right. So I'm taking off these crazy headphones, and we're just going to go ahead and do it this way. As long as you can hear me, we're good. Hey, everybody. My name is Attorney Michael Eline, and I'm here today with Ricky Simon. He's a UFC fighter, and, I just met him messing around on the internet, and it just turns out that he supports the Second Amendment and self-defense rights. And I was just kind of noticing, a lot of recent UFC fighters like Sean Strickland, a lot of these guys kind of remind me of the old school UFC fighters from back in the day, like Dan Severson and those guys, And he reminded me of these guys, and I wanted to have him on because I have a lot of clients who are in the UFC and in professional sports, and they get a lot of head injuries, CT injuries, and a lot of times, they've been like BS'd about the nature of their injuries to keep them getting out on the playing field. I know that's not the same with UFC, but it's just interesting. There's a lot of similar things going on. People, who are hard chargers, who are out there, sometimes, there's some consequences to being involved in rough sports, but that's part of being a man, and I think that's really great. And my background is I used to be a Marine. I started judo when I was around 6 years old. My dad had me in there. He was a Marine too. And my son's in judo now, and I used to take jiu-jitsu in Culver City over there, and it was real cool. And so anyways, Ricky, I really quick before I just so we can make sure this is all working right, before I make the main intro here, I want to show some of your clips, man, so people can see who they're dealing with right now. So I want you to check these out, guys, for a few seconds.
Get away from the fence because he knows that is what Simone wants. That's what he's going to get
all right
away from.
You can narrate if you want to, like how you're clobbering this guy.
Oh, yeah. I was excited about this one because my Sensei was like a legend in the bantamweight division for a long time. Been watching him for a long time, so I was excited to see him.
Let's take a look again. I think it's a right hand.
Hell yeah.
Boom! Right hook, right on the temple.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Tell us about your background, Ricky. I mean, this is like not a normal interview. I'm just a crazy lawyer who likes martial arts. So I just wanted to talk to you and, find out a little bit about your history, what motivated you to get into the UFC, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thanks for having me on. Thanks for talking. I enjoy your Instagram page, very informative. So it's been fun to follow along. But yeah, my background, my dad's from Puebla, Mexico. My mom's from like Idaho, so kind of like a weird mix growing up. But I have like awesome, interesting family from like Idaho and kind of like a rough and tough like Mexican, kind of like gangster family from like that from Mexico. So I had a weird like mixed upbringing, but my love for like guns came from like spending the summers in Idaho with my family. So anyways, we were talking about like the 2A and everything like that. So I thought I would bring that up. But yeah, I started wrestling from a young age, and my dad was a big fan of like Pride and UFC like early on, and I was young and watching it with him, and I thought the guys were crazy. I was like, oh, this looks brutal. But yeah, I ended up not wrestling in college and joined the MMA gym like right out of high school and fell in love with it. Took a bunch of fights and slowly started making my way to like turn pro. And it was kind of like there's no blueprint in fighting. Like some guys get signed at 4-0, 6-0. I got signed at 12-1 after fighting on Dana White's Tuesday night contender series.
Yeah.
And I become LFA world champion, 2-time LFA world champion, and then I finally got signed, and that was in 2018. So been signed with the UFC for about 6 years.
So your base is wrestling.
Yes,
I'm
yes.
seeing a lot like, yeah, real history there with the UFC. Like a lot of the strong guys, once they learn how to deal with submissions, it's always the wrestler who's just tearing people apart, man.
But if you even watch like a street fight, most of the time it's gonna end up on the ground. So you got to be able to at least wrestle like offensively or defensively. And coming up, I watched Randy Couture. He's from our area. I live in Vancouver, Washington. Team Quest was out of Portland, Oregon. So we were big fans of Randy, especially because he was a wrestler as well. So
yeah,
that was like one of my idols early on.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, he ended up making some of those Expendables movies.
yeah, he did.
So
I ever caught too many of them, but
yeah, yeah, you're too busy at the gym. Yeah, whenever I'm calling you, you're always training, man. So that's good. So that's one of the things, I see a lot of correlation. Like, why is a lawyer interviewing a fighter? Well, I see a lot of correlation between like really good lawyers and self-discipline. You see a lot of roly-poly, fat-body lawyers, and it's very rare that you'll see a successful one because fatness is a sign of laziness. I don't care what anybody says. And if you're out there, doing well in life, I think we talked about this. It's part of the warrior culture is knowing, arts and other things too, not just being a gladiator. A true warrior is, an artisan and involved in the government and management and helping the community. And I think that you do a lot of those things. So I thought it was really cool. What do they have that book? I think it's called Code of the Samurai. Really cool book, man. If you ever get a chance to read it, but it just sort of played into what we have to do. Like as lawyers, we got to get up at dark 30 and we got to work on briefs and stuff. But there's another extreme. You got to work out. You got to, and I believe martial arts is the best way. Like don't you agree? Like lawyers should be rolling all the time.
Yeah, I think everyone should. I think it's good for everybody, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man. Even Zuckerberg, like Girly Man, is out there rolling now, right?
I don't know if you caught the fights last night, but he was there. He was walking out with Volkanovski.
That was well, hopefully some of that testosterone will rub off on him, and he'll stop supporting all these what I consider to be a lot of anti-American ideals. Hopefully he'll figure it out. Yeah. So. Anyways, I wanted to kind of get into it with you a little bit about. So I was at the SHOT Show. I was with Dick Heller. That's really famous Supreme Court case, Heller versus District or DC versus Heller, whatever. And I wanted, to sort of after doing that SHOT Show and then talking to you, it was like, this is a great time. This is a real, there's this crazy Hawaiian Supreme Court case where this Hawaiian Supreme Court upheld this concept of aloha spirit or whatever, since the king of Hawaii banned weapons, because he had a lot of people who were unhappy with him, right? so they go ahead. So since he banned weapons, we need to pass that down now into Hawaiian culture, and make sure they can't have weapons either. But at the end of the day, there's always in free societies, there's the ability for you to be able to defend yourself against anyone, including someone who's using the legal system against you in an illegal or an unlawful manner. All laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void, and the people have the right of self-defense and to defend themselves. And then, of course, fighters like you, it's like inherent. It's usually in your nature. Most guys want to get into fighting and stuff because they're competitive. They got a lot of testosterone. It's they're raised as warriors by their fathers. And so I wanted to kind of like, because I heard you say, you had a little bit of a gangster thing going on from Mexico, but then the exposure to like hunting and fishing, I guess, in the North America. Is that kind of what happened with you?
Well, it was definitely like prevalent and around me, but I had good parents that would not let my brothers and I get into anything like that. And honestly, I started wrestling at such a young age. That's all I ever did. So I didn't have time to get in trouble. I was getting beat up in the wrestling room all the time. So I think that's what kept me grounded for a long time. And martial arts in general, like I feel like has kept me on a good path throughout my life. So yeah, it was around, but I did see plenty of it, but my parents did a good job of making sure that we never got involved in anything like that and kept it away from us and us away from those type of families eventually and family members eventually and stuff like that. So, But yeah, I mean, definitely wrestling kept me in the straight and narrow.
And I heard you say parents, and I got to tell you, like, I am so grateful. Even though my parents got divorced at a young age, my dad was messed up from the Vietnam War. He did 2 tours as a Marine. He was at Khe Sanh during the Tet Offensive. Really messed up, so it didn't work out. But I know I heard you say 2 parents. Well, even though they didn't get along or whatever, he tried his best to try to stay close to me and lead me and guide me, and he made sure I got into martial arts. And just like you said, I think that really helped me stay out of trouble. And I wanted to see, if it wasn't for the influence of your father, do you think you would have gotten into wrestling?
Yeah, I don't know. I've always been so competitive, so I feel like I would have. It feels like natural. I grew up with like 3 other brothers. So I like to think I would have found it, but I mean, he definitely pushed me into it, and he enjoyed it and liked to watch it, and he liked to go and like support us all the time, and that was like a great bonding time on tournaments and stuff like that. So I'm not sure, but I'm glad he definitely pushed me towards it.
That's really great to hear. I mean, I know that you definitely are on fire. I can tell, you're on fire. But I find that, like, at least for me, it was always like my uncles and my dad's guys who were like warriors, that I looked up to and wanted to model myself after. And a lot of guys that I talk to who I try to help on the law study program and stuff like that, especially the ones that come from single moms, I really see that they just never had any male leadership, And the ones that were fortunate enough to go in the Marine Corps kind of got that sort of value system, but the ones that didn't, they're really struggling right now out in the world trying to make a way for themselves. It's so important, I believe, to have male leadership in your life. I just think it can really help you become a better young man, especially girls too, but I think boys, because, we're so like always wanting to fight and compete and, impress the girl. We can do really stupid things with all that extra testosterone in our bodies,
Yeah, no, I totally agree that, like, having a positive male role model is very important, and I've noticed that throughout like my years of coaching. I coached all levels for the last like 10 years, and you can kind of see the difference in the children who are trying to come out and have that kind of support.
Yeah, and then you got, as you get into it and you decide to go pro, you'll see a lot of guys who are really punchy and stuff, And so I just got interviewed by BBC Sky News about CTE and how a lot of professional athletes are flying off the handle, and their lawyers are arguing that they have, this chronic head injury that makes, like, remember that Hernandez guy?
Oh yeah,
the football player. Yeah, man. Like, and I'm just thinking, it's being used almost like an insanity defense, and like, I'm almost thinking, like, is this for real, or could it be maybe like the prevalence of performance enhancing drugs? Because I'm seeing a lot of these, like the latest school shootings and mass shootings and stuff have been by people that are taking hormone therapy and stuff for like gender transitioning, like almost all of them. And I'm wondering if you think that it could just be that it's just too much performance enhancing stuff going on.
Yeah, I definitely feel like there's a link between like some kind of hormone deficiencies, or your hormones are all messed up for the type of people who are doing that, because it seems like they're like in dark places and stuff like that. I don't know if, because they're saying they can't really tell with the CTE till like after they're dead, right? So I don't know how can you really.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of how I feel about it too. My attitude is like, I've known a lot of punchy boxers. I trained under Walter McGowan for a little while when I lived in Scotland. He was a boxer. He was holder of a Lonsdale belt, and I remember he was real punchy, but I never saw him get real violent and stuff like that. I just have a hard time believing that. I just think these guys are raging on something else. Like, I saw the UFC fights last night, the female fighters. I mean, are you kidding me? They were clearly, getting some help.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just like, I'm like not in the know or with this, because we get tested so much. Like, I don't know how they must have like great doctors or something, because I'm like, I only get my supplements from the UFC because I'm so paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, someone's gonna be tainted or something, So I don't know how they get away with it with the amount we get tested.
Other than that, it's got to be like they're just genetically gifted. But I'm just trying to figure out if there's another explanation for like head injuries and stuff, because it's becoming like real prevalent. And now like you've got NFL and hockey and all these guys going after the leagues and stuff, and it could just be like a big money thing. Anyways, it's just one of those things that I always am concerned about, because it's one of the reasons why you have, especially regulators in more like areas that are not like pro fighter or pro boxer. They're always trying to regulate the sport to where it becomes almost like it's not even like the original UFC was a cage fighting. These guys were going in there and they were clobbering each other, like no rules, they were going off. So from my point of view, it's like now the rules are so strict to try to avoid injury, it no longer becomes like a real street fight. Does that make sense?
Yeah, we were kind of talking about that last night during the fights. There was like so many rules, like even with like the downed opponent, the opponent on the ground can kick you in the face up top, but you can't kick them back in the face on bottom. And there's just there are a lot of rules, and sometimes even like you say that people come in and try to like make it more of a sport, and it happens like that each state that we go to. There's a different commission basically, and each state that we fight in, and they have to kind of agree on the rules, or they adopt rules from this state and might switch it up in this one, and it gets a little confusing.
Yeah, I think so too. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, as a personal injury attorney, there's a case called Knight versus Jewett, and that is like the seminal case on like where you consent to the use of force in a sporting fashion. I'm trying to explain it in layman's terms. I keep saying like because I'm from California. Forgive me. But I guess what I'm getting at is you can consent in a boxing match to getting punched, but you wouldn't expect someone to come with a pistol and shoot you in a boxing match. That's not something that you could consent to. It's not a voluntary thing that's associated with boxing, pulling out a gun and shooting someone. So as a result, you have the ability as a boxer or someone else, a UFC fighter, to consent to that use of force. And what happened was, I grew up on UFC like in the 90s and stuff when it first came out. That was it. There was nothing cooler than the UFC because everybody knew it was real. Everybody knew it was real. But then all these congressmen and senators started raising holy hell and started wanting to regulate it. And it was impossible for the UFC to even hold a fight anywhere. So then they had to start coming up with rules. And as soon as that happened, it sort of became like judo in a way, where it's still badass, don't get me wrong, but now it's real rule oriented, where in a real street fight, all of the stuff that you could have learned as a judoka or as a master of wrestling or whatever, like all that stuff could have been used to see how good of a street fighter you are. And I'm just wondering, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think it's going to become so regulated that it doesn't even look like what it was in the past?
Yeah. It's interesting because I'm starting to see other promotions kind of like almost even go the other way, like with the bare knuckle, and with like I've seen like 1 versus 3 fights, and they're almost like some of them are getting like having less rules maybe, and more brutal. And I don't know if that'll like create a new category of its own. And I am hearing that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it's like where would it be legal though? It's so hard to find venues to do these fights.
Yeah, that's a great point, and it seems like they either do them out of the country or like on Indian reservations to get past that.
Yeah, isn't that interesting? They've got to go on a reservation. Well, you know what? I would drive to the reservation to see that fight. If I could see an old school like UFC fight that was no rules or close to no rules, I would do it. Yeah,
and I feel like most of us, like we know. At least I know what I'm signing up for. I know that I'm going in there. I know there's potential that I could have like injuries or brain damage. So I know I'm trying to do things outside of training on the recovery side to like try to combat that or try to help recover before and after like competitions. Right.
And how do you think, I guess, being a professional fighter, it's a little bit different, because if you get in a fight, you really have to show it was justified. Because, law enforcement looks at people that are trained fighters differently, right? Like a friend of mine who will remain nameless was in a special operations unit and was going through a divorce. And of course, his significant other went ahead, oh, he's this, highly trained, whatever, the whole sheriff's department shows up, because they think you're dangerous, right?
Yeah. It makes them nervous. They think that we're going to do something, like get arrested, or it might be harder to fight us, or we're going to give them a bigger fight or something. But that's something I'm always concerned about too. Like, I don't like to go out. I don't want to get in a fight and have to worry about not only defending myself, but getting hurt myself or beating somebody up and then getting in trouble as well.
Yeah, and you're probably picked on by fans who are trying to get your goat, I would imagine.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely happened. Most time people are cool in person. It's usually over the internet, but I mean, it definitely happens in person as well. I'm just I had to all right, I'm going to remove myself from the situation.
That's cool, because I've seen some situations on social media where people will try to start fights with these guys because they know they can probably get a payday or whatever. It's almost like you have to have your own private security to protect you from getting in a fight.
I'm not that high profile, but I know my brothers always have my back. They're always making sure, hey, wedging themselves in between.
That's awesome. So now, I guess another thing we should talk about is, I'd like to get a group of people together who support self-defense rights, like you, and try to teach people the value of being well armed and natural law. So just for everybody who's out there, so there's two schools of thought. There's the Hobbes Leviathan philosophy, and then there's the John Locke philosophy. And John Locke is sort of looked at as the modern founder of natural law for American common law. It's where most of our Bill of Rights and all these other things, they sort of started with John Locke. And then Hobbes was more of the royalist, the monarchist, who supported the concept of a great Leviathan, an all-controlling Leviathan. And in an environment like that, there is no freedom other than what the government says you can have. And since the Leviathan has disarmed you, there is no God under the Leviathan theory. There's just a secular humanist society with no creator. It's easy to say, well, there are no natural rights. That's the World Economic Forum position. There are no natural rights. It's whatever the government, whatever's good for the greater good. And then you have the John Locke philosophy, which is what gave us our Bill of Rights, right? What everybody relies upon to try to take our guns away, right? Oh, we need to be safe. To take away our self-defense, not just guns, knives, whatever you could possibly use to defend yourself. And so it all starts with disarming the population and taking away their abilities to defend themselves. One state has even proposed a law that if I think 3 or more people gather to do self-defense training, that could be considered an unlawful felonious gathering, which is crazy. So I kind of wanted to get your position. I mean, do you think that if these people who support the concept of very little rights would allow the people like street fighting, UFC, bare knuckle, whatever, to keep on going, or do you think that would be regulated out of existence?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it'd be regulated out because they wouldn't want people to be able to defend themselves. Ultimately, if they're not even want people to get together to practice defending themselves in large groups, how would they get to the competitions? And they're going to regulate the shit out of that and not let that happen.
So what do you think would happen in a situation where an armed intruder breaks into your house, but it's illegal for you to have a gun or defend yourself? Would you just let that happen, or would you try to fight back and just say, "Damn the torpedoes, I'm going to jail"?
I would show them the law that says they're not allowed to have a gun. And be like, "Hey, you can't do that, dude." Look at the paper. Look, they said, "Please see yourself out."
So yeah, I had dude, that's crazy. I had a conversation with a retired judge, and he's vehemently anti-Second Amendment. And that's when I knew we were doomed. he said if you had a choice to ward off an attacker who had a knife with his bare hands or to pick up a gun next to him, he would try to fight the guy off with a knife with his bare hands. And I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, that's crazy. Have you ever met anybody like that before?
Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, I live in Washington State, so I hear people kind of talk like that a little bit. And I was going to say I've done some training with I did one of those self-defense like sheepdog response. Tim Kennedy, he's a ex-UFC fighter, does these protector courses, and we do some knife fighting like with the fake knives and the fake guns. And I'll tell you, I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I've been wrestling my entire life. Like there's just people who didn't even have experience, and they were able to like slice me up easily. You know, once you get to the ground, you're gonna get cut here and there. So and the ultimate equalizer in these situations is to be able to have a firearm, especially with people who don't have the training that I have.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's like most of these people are like couch potatoes that are out there now. Their only chance is probably going to be to pick up the gun on their nightstand. They're not going to be able to they're not Danny Innocento. They're not going to be able to ward off a knife attack or something.
Yeah,
right.
Everyone thinks they're going to be a lot tougher in those situations than they actually are.
Man, look, I got to tell you, and I'm not a UFC fighter, but even being, with my military background and stuff, and even guys I've met who are like combat vets, when someone breaks into your house at night and you're waking up, it's freaky. You're going into fight or flight mode. You're just not 100% like ready to go. You're just kind of. So having that gun there is a big deal.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't had to experience that, thank God, but I'm well protected in my home, and I feel comfortable with that, and knowing that I'll be able to protect my family.
Good for you. So another issue that a lot of people are running into, just for our viewers, whoever's watching, these even if you have the right to defend yourself, if your assailant has got their back turned to you or they're fleeing, that could be considered murder, because you're only allowed to defend yourself so long as the immediate danger is present. If the immediate danger is past, then it could be construed that it wasn't in self-defense. So self-defense rights, although you have them, they're also interpreted. And if you're in a jurisdiction or an area that's like really liberal or whatever, the prosecutor will still charge you, even if you had valid self-defense rights to protect your family. And I've seen it happen a lot as a defense attorney. So everybody, be aware of that, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and also just so you know, like in most jurisdictions, you can't defend your property with firearms, unless of course like someone's throwing Molotov cocktails at you and you're inside your house. That's different. But the idea is you have to be in an immediate danger. You have to be under threat. And you can also defend others, but you always have to remember that if you get charged, even if you were totally on film and in the right, you're still going to have to pay a lawyer a lot of money to fight that charge, like that Kyle Rittenhouse guy did.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody saw he was being chased and getting shot at by these guys. So, having your self-defense rights is one thing, and that's one thing. A guy like you, you're a testament to people who train hard and work hard, and you're not getting out, beating up people. You're like an AR-15 is just a tool. Your skills are just a tool. It's you, because you were properly trained and had good parents, that you're able to control yourself, and not get out there and cause trouble. But then, like, when that less than 0.25% of someone causes trouble, then the great Leviathan, I call it, comes along and wants to pass a law to take away your freedoms and my freedoms and make it harder for us to be able to defend our families. And I wanted to see, what you think about that, where you're at, and is it getting better or is it getting worse? What do you think?
That's a tough one, because, like I said, like in our area, like they're limiting the amount of like rounds we can have in our magazines and what kind of attachments we can have on our weapons, and it's just crazy that it doesn't seem like it's getting better, because it seems like some areas are starting to get more closed off and take more rights away. It makes you really, consider like where I want to live and raise a family.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you mentioned you have like Mexican heritage. Well, my wife's from El Salvador, and we were thinking about, El Salvador is looking safer now than the United States. They locked up all the gang members, and the last couple times we were there, it was just amazing. So, and I'm seeing that with a lot of people. You go to New York, it's a complete garbage pail. You go to LA, garbage, dangerous, homeless people. Here, give me $5 and I'll make sure nobody messes with your car. When you park your car to go to someone's business, like why would anybody even want to have a business there?
Yeah, yeah. And I live right here next to Portland, Oregon. I train in California often, close to LA, and I only train. I only go to the gym. I don't like to go out in Portland, go out to any of the restaurants anymore. There's too much like trouble, too many homeless, too many druggies out on the street. Same with LA, so it does not seem safe. And it doesn't seem like it's getting better.
Yeah, they have these non-government organizations like Fight Homeless, right? And they get billions of dollars in government grants. And, it's like if they cure the homeless problem, they're going to lose all that money, right? Like,
yeah.
Like, is there any incentive for them to really end homelessness when they're making all this money to try to end homelessness?
Yeah, it's wild.
Anyways, I'm seeing a lot of that happening. They're just passing more and more legislation to make it easier for these people to poop in the street. It looks like.
Yeah, and the streets are bad, and they're smelling it up.
So I haven't been to Portland in a long time, but is that how it is? I've heard that it smells like urine all over the place.
It does. It does. If you walk around in Portland, yeah. My wife was just in Portland for like she works for one of the hospitals, and they had like a dinner over there. And I'm nervous because I know she's gonna like be killing time, walking around before dinner. And the girls will decide to go to Nordstrom, and my wife is familiar with the area, and she's telling them not to go to certain areas, or even the elevators, because the elevators are full of shit and piss.
Oh,
so
are you kidding? That's terrible.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you think that you'll ever end up running for Congress or something and try to clean this stuff up? Because I'm all about supporting anybody with the military fighter background. You're the guys that are going to get stuff done, in my opinion.
I don't ever see myself doing stuff like that, but I'm trying to be more and more involved for sure.
All right.
Especially after COVID and everything, I've been trying to like stay more informed and learn more about everything that's been going on, because it definitely seems like, I don't know if we're just like voting all this in or if it's just this corrupt, but it's been tough over the last few years for sure.
Dude, I just saw an article. I don't know if it's true. Too lazy to try to find it and put it up on the screen. But in France, I think they're trying to pass a law that if you question any of their VAX stuff, I don't even want to say the word, because you get banned, because all the advertisers will get flipped out, right, if you say anything about it. Mm-hmm. But if you even talk about it over in France, they're going to make it a crime and charge you like 48,000 euros or something. So
wow.
That was one of the things that at the beginning of this whole conversation, and when I originally wanted to have you on. So the First Amendment, Ricky, is so connected with the Second, because if people like that are in power and they're passing rules that because they're political campaign donors and their buddies inside the government, politics, are trying to silence you and create this false sense of a universal scientific consensus and all this stuff. I mean, when you silence everybody, it's easy to make it look like there's a consensus, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the bottom line. And so you sort of see the connection, right? Because in America, the greatest threat that our government has ever had, and it's in our founding documents, is the concept that we have the right to throw off unjust government. It's in our founding documents. This isn't anything more revolutionary than the reason you and I are able to have this conversation right now, is that we, the people, have this inherent unalienable right granted from the universe, our creator, whatever you want to call it, to say what we want to say, so long as we're not inciting violence to the point where, hey, go kill that person. That's a little bit different. That's not speech. That's different, right? There's yelling fire in a crowded movie theater is not speech, because that's almost like a murder sentence. They're all going to run and stomp on each other. But the idea is if you don't have the ability to defend yourself and present yourself as a potential threat to those who would try and take away your freedoms, it's much easier for them to subjugate you. Can we agree on that?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, and so that makes you more of a natural law proponent, and that makes you in the norm, right? So don't believe everybody who is out there, because I don't want to spend the whole day standing on my Apple Cart or whatever. But everybody out there, you have natural, unalienable rights if you support the original concept of America. It was based upon this concept that you have natural, unalienable rights that are granted by a creator. And one of the things that the great Leviathan will do is through their news media is they want to destroy the concept of God and create a Luciferian sort of an existence where you're just nothing but a glob of cells. There's nothing about you that's special. And that's a recurring theme that you're going to see through like the World Economic Forum and these other organizations. And I prefer the fighters like Ricky. People are out there struggling, hustling, who are willing to put their life on the line to defend their family and friends. And so one of the things that everybody should take away from this is you should keep on fighting for freedom. So, Ricky, do you have anything else you want to say to anybody out here?
Yeah, just on that same note, it feels like because I've been like feeling this way for a little bit now, and I know some people who feel the same exact way, but they will not ever speak up, or they won't ever go against the grain. And we definitely saw it over the last few years. So you're not alone. It seems like a lot of people are along this train of thought. So yeah, just like you were saying, stand up for freedom.
And and guys like you too, you have a duty too to be a sheepdog and get out there just like you're doing today, because the more of us that stand up for freedom and come out and are willing to talk, those other sheepish people are going to be more emboldened, and they're going to want to sort of snuggle up next to us. And that's normal, even in a combat situation. It's the leader. What do they say? It's better to have an army of sheep led by a lion than an army of lions led by a sheep. It's true.
Oh, yeah.
So, well, that being said, everybody, let me see if I can find some cool music so we can close this out, man. Hold on. Hey, everybody. Whoa, you like that music? That's some cool biker music. So I hope you enjoyed my time here with Ricky Simon, badass UFC fighter. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and share some more of his clips beating the shit out of people. Hold on. Here we go.
There to step in and stop it. We don't want to see us.
And I'm going to let Ricky narrate these reels until he tells me to stop, because this is my favorite part of the show.
Right uppercut and left hook to finish the job.
Oh, man. I'm the best at this, but this was a fun one against that undefeated Wolfman. Again, his first loss. I knew he wanted to throw that jab. I was trying to come over the top of it, was in a fight. Finally landed it and put my black belt to use. This is my favorite choke. I'm setting up here with the arm triangle. A little bit of a modification with a rear naked choke grip. This is a good one because he's a black belt as well. So undefeated Welshman getting his first loss. I really like that one.
Right here, you see Jack Shore.
Dude, that is such a... Oh my God. Whoa!
Drops him.
So you got good hands too, dude.
Simone hits him with the follow-up. I mean, that right hand lands right on the temple.
I had to learn something.
Can't take him on the temple, Paulie.
Hell yeah. Oh my God, he's rocked. That's it.
Your body just it just betrays you. Simone takes mount. Now he goes mount. Jack Shore has to choose between two bad positions. Either get your back or stay mounted and pound it out. Ricky Simone ultimately goes right to the rear choke, knowing that Shore will have to reverse position again, right into the arm triangle. What a performance by Ricky Simone.
That's killer, man.
What does Pirello do here, DC? You got to start digging for those under.
Holy shit, that's definitely, you got the wrestling down.
Right in the mount, DC.
This was in Abu Dhabi during the COVID time. This is the Fight Island card. They kind of had us in a bubble all week for 2 weeks. Couldn't really leave anywhere. Same kind of submission I hit in that previous clip. I really like this one. Submission.
How much were you weighing in this fight?
I weigh in at 135 pounds. But,
look, right, left leg inside.
I gained the weight back
put
pretty
him
quick.
down over and over again. The
I'm a
last
fat
one
boy,
was right
so
into the mount
I get
position.
back up to
And
like
immediately Ricky
155,
started looking for this.
156
Hey,
the day of the fight.
Brillo
within
had no
24
choice
hours.
to try to turn
No way.
and get out of the mount.
You look pretty
Ricky
shredded, man.
followed
I
him
mean, that's
off to
like
his
no
right.
body fat.
When he turned back left, right into the arm
Yes.
triangle
A
finish.
lot of
Great
training.
job by Ricky
Don't
Simone.
get to enjoy no good beer.
Swelling into the right eye of Simone. Another takedown. Big takedown from Wallace Willie. Although he's got Simone reversing things. He's got the guillotine. Look out to Wallace
No shit.
Willie.
Oh, he's
trying to
yeah.
keep his hands
I mean,
up there.
you got
I
skills,
can't tell if
man.
he's out.
When's your next
He's out.
UFC fight, or do you have any planned? Or
No, he's still
Wallace
fighting.
really snaps his left hand. My goodness, look at his legs.
Oh my God.
Still trying to fight. Does he have 35 seconds left in him?
right on, dude.
What is going on there?
After it was going so well, but surviving.
We should have you
for
come
the
back
moment.
on with some clips from that.
Still kicking those legs. It's Simone. With 20 seconds
We should,
left
you know,
to
we
work
should do.
now.
We should go to the gun range and like blow some shit up, some tannerite targets.
Give the thumbs up, my goodness.
All right, man. You get a bunch of dudes together. I'll try to get a bunch of my Marine buddies, like some guys from like
Final 10
special operations
seconds
or something,
to
and
Wallace Willie
see if we
keeps
can
the fights
commandeer a
in
machine
Luxembourg.
gun or something.
Final seconds of the fight. Where's the horn?
Hell yeah,
There it
dude.
is. My
So tell me what happened to this guy.
He's not out. No, it's okay.
Marab to Wallace Willie
There's a weird
with the
one.
heart of a lion.
Referee Liam Kerrigan has called a stop to this contest at the end of round 3, declaring the winner by TKO, Ricky Simone.
Ended up getting the win after the fight.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. It's good.
All right.
It's good to relive those ones right now because I am on a 2-fight skid. I fought like two really good fighters lately. I need to get back in the win column. So hopefully the next one that'll be it.
All right, well, guys, everybody, we're gonna do some patriotic music so Ricky can go and kick some ass in his next fight. Everybody, this is Honor the Flag. No, but seriously, yeah, go out and win, buddy. Make it happen for the team. We'll have you come on maybe in a couple of weeks, and we'll come up with something more fun, where we go to a gun range or something and blow some stuff up and see if we can go on this journey of self-defense together.
But yeah, like I said, I appreciate you having me on.
Sending an opponent to
Watch it and
sleep
learn
is
it.
the strongest
All right,
proof of
Ricky, thanks, buddy.
superiority in
Semper Fi.
combat sports.
It's a break.